So, guys, we're going to pivot here a little bit and we're going to talk about, did Trump taco on ICE enforcement? Okay. Did Trump taco on ICE enforcement? So, guys, we saw the week that we're having. It's been a pretty rough week here in America in the sense of, it was hard seeing that video of Alex Preddy. Anybody, whether you're on the left or the right, I think would have an emotional response from that video, either in support of ICE or in support of the protesters. But nevertheless, let's watch Tom Homan and see what he had to say when he went there. So Trump basically, when that situation happened in Minneapolis, as you guys know, Alex Preddy was unalived. You guys can go back on our channel and watch the videos. We did breakdowns of it. We showed different angles. I'm not playing the video. I'm kind of over the video. I have Alex Preddy, Minneapolis derangement syndrome this week. I don't want to watch it anymore. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. But anyways, when that happened, Trump backtracked on Chief Greg Bovino and relieved him of his services. Let me show you who Greg Bovino is, and then we'll get into what Tom Homan had to say.
Behind me are a few individuals there. That's the original turn and burn, the folks that helped make America. But you know what? I'm very proud of what you, the Mean Green Machine, are doing in Minneapolis right now, just like you've done it across the United States over these past tough 9 months. And I want you to know that you're the modern day equivalent. Turn and burn. Makes me very proud. I also want you to know that I've got your back now and always. I love you, I support you, and I salute you.
So that is Greg Bovino. Yeah, so Joe, they didn't fire him. What happened was they relieved him of his services this week, okay? So that's pretty much, that's the summary of the week in that regard. And people are asking, is Trump tacoing? Is Trump shifting his position? So guys, just so you guys know, the liberals have come up with a term for Trump. Trump always chickens out. And I will say there is some truth. However, I think it's the art of the deal, right? Trump goes, he aims high, and he lands low, or he lands at his midpoint. That's negotiations for you. You can have a grandiose dream or number that you put out there, but you have a real number, a real thought, or real whatever, and that's where you end up. And that's how negotiation works, okay? If you've ever negotiated with somebody, you always say a really low or really high number, and then you have that midpoint. And I think that's where we're at with Trump. I think Trump always knew that the mass deportation, the millions and millions of people that Joe Biden allowed in, we weren't going to get them out, okay? So we had to meet in the middle. And this is where the meeting in the middle part is. And this is where the shifting of the where the taco, I think, is coming in on, okay? So there are now new guidance for ICE in Minnesota. ICE officers were ordered not to engage with agitators during enforcement operations after protests and 2 fatal unalivements, and to focus arrests on immigrants with criminal charges. And that's not what millions of Americans voted for. So Trump is about to have a really interesting take in all. I'm curious how Americans are going to feel, because 77 million people voted for getting illegal immigrants out. Everybody I know that voted for Trump, they're like, no, we voted for that. This is what we voted for. He also relieved Greg Bovino of his duties. Let's watch this clip of what Tom Homan had to say as he's now taking over.
Decisions to allow this kind of operation to proceed in this way and to create such fear.
Well, look, the Border Patrol, last 4 years under Joe Biden, we had an open border where 10, 12,000 people a day are coming across the border. Border Patrol got overwhelmed, which means we sent thousands of ICE agents down there to help deal with that humanitarian crisis, to help secure the border. Now we have millions of people released in this nation, many unvetted. Now we got to find them. Before the big, beautiful bill, we had a total just under 5,000 deportation officers to look for millions of people, many in public safety threats. So yes, we needed Border Patrol to come and help on our mission now. And reason for the massive deployment is because of the threats, because of the violence. Our officers need to be protected. If I'm on an operation, an arrest team, I'm going to a house, I got to be busy with that guy, the dangerous guy, and I can't keep looking over my shoulder at what's happening outside that house. So we brought extra resources in to provide that security. And as I said, As we drill down on these great agreements we got, and this great understanding we have means less. So we can draw down those resources. When the violence decreases, we can draw down those resources. But based on the discussions I've had with the governor and the AG, we can start drawing down those resources as far as those looking for public safety threats being released, and do it in the jail with much less people. So the drawdown is going to happen based on these agreements. But the drawdown can happen even more if the hateful rhetoric and the impediment and interference will stop. So Border Patrol, I was a Border Patrol agent. These men and women are patriots. God bless them. They're here to help us. And the drawdown will come soon, depending on when this actually, I see this in play. But the agreements to have alone is going to cause a significant drawdown. So you're going to see a drawdown.
All right, guys. So, he's saying that they are going to see a drawdown. And that's interesting because before this unalivement, they were doubling down. Okay. So pretty much, yeah, the border czar sent in a response. Trump deployed Tom Homan. Okay. That's the border czar. That's who you saw, to lead immigration enforcement in Minnesota, and said operations would continue, but with adjustments meant to reduce tensions and improve safety while still targeting undocumented immigrants with criminal histories. Guys, like I said, some people are a little uncomfortable. Yeah, Joe, we talked about this last night. Go back and watch our stream. We talked about the signal chats. We also did a breakdown of the signal chats, and we did a reaction to James O'Keefe's documentary. So, guys, we do live stream every Monday through Thursday at 8 p.m. So you guys can go back and watch our show. We have a panel team that represents all sides from the left to the right. So we have all sides on our panel. So we're not just in an echo chamber. But nevertheless, going back to this, people I don't think, understood what mass deportations were going to look like. What did you guys think mass deportations were going to look like? Some people just are not comfortable with some of the things that they saw, and that's understandable. And this is where we're at. And everybody attacks Trump. They make fun of him. They say he tacos. But I actually think it's a good idea that he's not married to certain decisions, because he's actually trying to do what the American people want. When the majority of Americans are saying that these deportations are making them uncomfortable the way they're being played out, it's a good thing that you have a president that's listening to you, okay? And that's taking other things into consideration. So the other thing, Honan warned separately, suggested that justice is coming for groups, and that goes to Joe's point of the signal chats. He claims are funding opposition to ICE operations, reflecting a combative rhetoric toward critics, even as enforcement adjusts. Guys, and this week we learned about these group chats. So what these people are doing, whether you agree with them or not, they have these signal chats, and allegedly they're saying that the assistant governor of Minnesota was involved in these chats. They're getting ICE location somehow. Maybe she was leaking them. And so from there, they then talk in the chat, hey, ICE is at 55th Street and Hollywood Boulevard, for example. And then they're going there and they're obstructing justice by blowing whistles, throwing things, doing all sorts of assaulting things to these ICE agents. Okay. And so this is the problem, guys. These ICE agents are being attacked on a daily basis. Whether you guys agree, don't agree, it's not okay, because they have a job to do. They have federal enforcement to make. And sometimes, from the clips I've seen, they've interrupted proceedings of pedophiles, of actual criminals. So I understand that it's upsetting that there are, people that necessarily broke the law and they're here illegally. But if you came into this country undocumented, if you didn't show up to your court appearances, that's breaking the law, guys. That's a criminal offense. You have to show up to your court appearances. And I don't think the Trump administration is doing a good job explaining that. Okay. Frank, you need to stop crying. Okay. Like, this is a week recap of the week. Okay. If you don't like it, I appreciate you for watching, but this is where we're at. We have to talk about these things. Andrea said only 5% detainees are criminals. And again, what is your definition of a criminal? These are the things we need to be asking ourselves, because if somebody came here and their first act was coming into the country without documentation or complying with immigration laws by reporting to their court appearances, they broke the law, and that in turn would make them a criminal at that point. But these are hard conversations that people don't want to have, unfortunately. Also, we found out that ICE is scaling down in Maine. Following political pressure, large ICE scale operations in Maine were announced by officials to be ending, though regular immigration enforcement is expected to continue. So people are pushing back. Let's acknowledge that. People are really pushing back. People are pushing back. They don't like the way this looks. They're uncomfortable. I will say, for me, seeing people get unalived really makes me uncomfortable. Let's watch this clip, another clip of Tom Homan.
CBP officers are performing their duties in a challenging environment under tremendous circumstances, but they're trying to do it with professionalism. If they don't, they'll be dealt with. Like any other federal agency, we have standards of conduct. They are sworn law enforcement officers working tirelessly to enforce our country's border security, immigration laws, protecting the interests of our country and preventing.
So yeah, guys, going back to that, hold on, can I shift it? Okay, sorry. Going back to that. So Trump has praised ICE work in Minneapolis and suggested that at some point federal agents will leave, even while continuing to defend the overall mission and operational choices publicly. The Justice Department has appealed a judicial order that would limit tactics federal agents can use during protests related to immigration operations, signaling the administration wants to preserve enforcement flexibility. So Pam Bondi has really been a disappointment this week. Really been a disappointment. I think majority of people want her gone. Really been a disappointment regarding support for the enforcement of these things. Disappointment regarding arrests for unpeaceful protesters. I know that there are peaceful protesters. Let me be clear, but the unpeaceful ones need to be locked up. Let's watch this clip. This is ICE agents targeting the news they're claiming. Let's watch. So yeah, guys, pretty much, somebody asked in the chat, what are they doing to people that are showing up to their court appearances? The reality is, guys, I implore you to do your own research and not listen to what the news is saying, not listen to what somebody that's emotional against Trump is saying. The reality is some of these people may have now showed up to this court appearance, but they probably did not show up to the other court appearances. And they probably had an order at that point for their detainment. But nevertheless, the overall takeaways right now is Trump is not completely backing away from law enforcement fundamentally. Instead, the administration is trying to manage optics and tactics after public outcry over violent incidents and legal challenges. Also, the government America is now going against him and Pam Bondi. They're very upset. Let's watch Stephen A. Smith and what he had to say about Pam Bondi, because she's been a disappointment, like I said.
State to end the sanctuary city policies and cooperate fully with immigration and customs enforcement. This includes honoring immigration detainers and allowing ICE agents to interview and remove individuals from state prisons and jails. That's where it gets interesting. Because if you have crossed the border illegally and for some reason you are incarcerated because of a crime that you may have committed that had nothing to do with ICE at the time, what is wrong with ICE and the feds insisting that the states, local and state government, let you into their jails, let you into their prisons to get these individuals and deport them back to where they came from? You got millions upon millions of American citizens that ain't gonna have a problem with that part. They'll have more of a problem with the voter rolls and other things before they have a problem with that.
So yeah, I mean, that's a good point. What do you guys think about what he just said? That's very interesting. That's an interesting point right there. And I think that's what everybody is really arguing against with this whole thing. Is this really about ICE enforcement, or is this about a distraction for Tim Walz's prosecution and the amount of fraud in Minnesota done by citizens, done by the Somalians, done by the government officials? I mean, billions of dollars have been taken out of Minnesota. I can't wait for it to all come out and everyone to open their eyes. Billions, not millions, billions with a B. And that's